Hi guys, it's Veronica from Veronika's Ventures. Every Sunday, I release a new video on personal growth or transformation, as well as simple life hacks to help you be successful. I also go live every Wednesday at noon on my Facebook channel, so be sure to tune in there as well. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you don't miss any new content. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about knowing your worth and how to set your prices, whether you're an entrepreneur setting prices for your goods or services, or an employee negotiating your salary. Stay tuned. Hey guys, so I'm coming to you live and I'm super nervous. This is like the first time I've advertised this in advance, and so please bear with me. Really nervous. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll try to get to them. If I don't get to them because I'm doing this on my own, I promise I will answer them. So we're here to talk about how to price your goods or services, right? And when you're an entrepreneur and you have a good, it's fairly easy to come up with a price. You just calculate your costs, know what your profit margin is going to be, and there's your price basically, right? But when you have a service, it's a little more tricky because you have to take into account all of that plus your time and expertise. And that's where your value is, right? Because if anybody could do it, they would. They either don't have the time to do it or they don't know how to do it. So that's where you need to make sure that you don't sell yourself short, right? So how do you calculate that? Well, one way is to look at the industry. Whatever industry you're in, find something that's similar. Even if you have a super unique product, there's got to be something that you can compare it against. And know what the high for that industry is, what the low for that industry is, and also what the average is. Because you don't want to price yourself too high. You're going to price yourself right out of the market. We all have a maximum that we're willing to pay for any product or service. It varies by customer, but generally, you know what your customer base is, and you know what that if you price it too high, nobody's going to buy it, right? But where a lot of entrepreneurs go wrong is they price themselves too low, erroneously believing that cost alone drives sales, and that's not true. How many of us have gone to a store or even shopping online, and if something is priced too low and you don't recognize the brand, it's not already known to you, you automatically discount it as crap, right? So you want to make sure you don't price yourself too low either. It's very tricky, but sorry, I'm checking my notes. I'm so nervous. I don't know how you guys do this all the time. Wow. Okay, so that leads me to my next point, which is actually perceived value. So Rolex, I want to talk about Rolex. Rolex is not the best timepiece ever made, but what it has done an excellent job of doing is increasing its perceived value, right? People see it as a luxury item, as the epitome of success, so they're able to charge a premium price, whether or not they're the best watch out there. That's what you have to do with whatever it is that you're selling, whether it be a good or a service, is identify what makes it unique, what differentiates it from your competitors, and that's what you need to highlight in your marketing to increase that perceived value, because then you can up your price without having to really change anything other than what you're highlighting for your potential client or customer, right? Let me see if there's any questions. Ooh, I have a comment. Eee. Thanks. Whoever said I'm doing great, thank you very much. Anyway, so interestingly enough, when you are an employee, actually a lot of the same principles apply. So first you need to do your research. You need to know what your particular what your particular position is paid industry-wide, as well as what your particular employer pays, or your potential employer, if you're interviewing, pays, what the high is, what the low is, what the average is. Because you need to know all that information before you even go in there. And if you can, do a little Facebook stalking. Find out who's interviewing you. Know your audience. Because if you know how to approach that particular person, then you know what their potential rebuttal is going to be, and you can plan ahead for that. So that's actually my next point, which is have a backup plan. Whenever you're negotiating anything, you got to know what you want, what you believe you deserve, and what you're going to do if they're not willing to meet that, right? So especially right now, when a lot of businesses are being hit hard with COVID and things like that, employers may not be willing to pay more or may not be able to pay more, but there's other places where you can negotiate. You can negotiate for more vacation time. You can negotiate for preferable schedule if they have variable schedules. You can do company perks depending on how big the company is. Maybe you get a better parking spot. There's always a place to negotiate. So you got to know that. And you also should know, sorry, I got distracted by comments. Thanks, Jeff. You also should know the minimum that you're willing to take, right? Because we all have that breaking point where it's not worth your time if you're not getting paid enough. There's something that you need to know. You need to know what you want, what your potential client or employer is willing to pay, and what the minimum is that you're willing to get for it, and when you're willing to walk away. So I want to tell you guys a little story. About 5-ish years ago, I was doing some consulting work, and I had one main client. Their industry changed a little bit, and they weren't making as much profit as they thought they should be making. So they came to me and said, we need to lower your hourly wage, and this is what we're going to be paying you. And it was like $5 less an hour. I mean, not huge, but big enough that it was like something I had to think about. So inside I was like, right? But I said, okay, thank you for letting me know. I have to think about it. And so I went home, talked to my husband. We discussed, is it worth the time away from the kids? Is it worth the price of childcare? Like, at what point is this not worth it for me anymore? And so even though inside I was super nervous, I went back to my client and with confidence said, I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know, but I'm going to have to put in my 2 weeks notice. And lo and behold, they actually decided that I was worth the extra money and decided to keep paying me what they were already paying me. So go in there with my last point, with confidence. No matter what you feel on the inside, you have to go in there with confidence, know what you're worth, and be willing to say it loud and proud and basically project the value. And no matter what, you need to know when you're going to be willing to walk away. And sorry, I got to check my notes again. One last thing. So no matter how you price yourself, whether it is high or low or industry average, based on what it is you're selling, you have to know your product, right? If you have a premium product, if you have a budget product. There's nothing wrong with either one of those situations, but that's also a determining factor in how you determine your price, right? But no matter what it is, you got to make sure you got to back it up with work. You got to work hard and know that when you go back in for another performance review or whatever the case may be, you have a leg to stand on when you say, hey, this is what I did, right? So I have to tell you guys one last story before I go, and that's what prompted this whole video, right? So I have this website, veronikaventures.com, and I started it back when it was just like a little online diary. And so not too long ago, I went in there and changed it, tried to make it look a little more professional. But when I changed the theme, it actually broke a bunch of the links. And so I was looking at it and I really didn't have time to go in there and make sure all the links were working. So I approached my 14-year-old and said, hey, I'll pay you if you go in here and just make me a spreadsheet, let me know what needs to be fixed. Do a good job and I'll pay you money. Depending on what the job, how you do the job will depend on how much I pay you, right? So she comes back to me a couple hours later and she has a full-on spreadsheet of everything that needs to be changed, all this stuff, right? And I was actually kind of taken aback. I was very proud of her. But then I said, okay, well, what do you think this is worth? And she comes back to me with $15 an hour. In my head, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, there's full-on adults that don't get paid $15 an hour. You're 14 years old. And so I said, hun, the federal minimum wage is only $7.25. So this is where she did her research. First, she says to me, well, haven't you been arguing that minimum wage should be raised to $15 an hour? And then she hits me with, and the minimum wage in California is $13 an hour. See, she did her research, and this is what I get for putting her in debate. But anyway, we ended up negotiating to $10 an hour. And later I was kind of annoyed because I wanted to be like, hey, you're supposed to be helping me. Like, you're my daughter, right? But also I was super proud of her because she knew me, she knew her target audience, she knew the industry, she knew what she should be getting paid, and she fought for it and got a pretty decent price. I would have never done that when I was 14 years old. But anyway, just wanted to see if there's any questions. I will take a look. None, but if you are watching this later and you have any questions, feel free to DM me or leave a comment down below. And if there's any topics you want me to cover on next video, also let me know. I'm going to, sorry, I should have had this ready to go. Sorry guys. See you later. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover, please comment below or send me a DM. Don't forget to find me on YouTube, Instagram. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover, please comment below or send me a DM. Don't forget to find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and also at veronikaventures.com. See you next time. Bye.